Hello everyone. In this video, we will look at what is the difference between passing primitive parameters to a method versus passing reference parameters like objects, strings, or arrays to another method. Okay. Before that, let us just have a look how primitive data types are stored. Primitive data types are stored by value. What this means is, if I declare a variable x of type int, okay, a memory location is allocated, specifically in int, it's 4 bytes of memory location is allocated, and the value 5 is stored in that particular variable. That is, the value is stored in that memory slot. When I make a new variable y and I say assign the value of x to it, so we have a variable y with 4 bytes of memory and the value of x, which is 5, is copied over to y. Okay, so variable y also has 5 in it. After this point, there is no connection between the variable x and y. So now if we go and change the value of x to 50, then only the value of x changes to 50, whereas y remains as 5. Okay, this is just to show that primitive data types are stored by value. That is, the value is stored in x and the value is stored in y. Versus reference data types. Now, reference data types are stored by reference. What does reference mean? Reference basically just means that it stores the address of where the actual value is stored. Okay, so if I create, suppose city is a class which has one instance variable population. So when I create a new object C1 of type city, what happens? C1 stores the address of the memory location which will have the value. Okay, C1 directly does not store the value. So that is why we say these data types store the reference, or they store the address of the memory location where the value is present. Okay, so I have made a new variable C1 of type city. So C1 is a variable which holds the address where the population variable is present. Whenever we make a new object, the initial values are default to the default 0. So for population, which may be of type int or long, the default value would be 0. Okay. Now, if we make another variable or another object C2 of type city, the same thing happens. C2 is a variable which stores the address where the new instance variable population is stored. Okay, so this is a different memory address. Now, if we say C1.set population 10,000, so we say for the object C1, okay, set the population to 10,000. So it goes to C1, finds the address. From this address, it knows how to access the population instance variable, and it will set the value to 10,000. Okay. So if we print C1.population, what do we get? Object C1, address is here, go to that location, read the population value, which is 10,000. Fine. At this point, if we print C2.population, same thing happens. We go to C2. C2 gives you another address. We go to that memory location. We read the value of population, which is currently 0. Okay. Now, if we do, say C2 is equal to C1. What does the assignment equal to? Is the assignment operator, which works right to left. That means it will take the value present in C1. What is the value present in C1? It is an address. Do note, it is an address. So this address, okay, this address will get copied to C2. So now whenever we will access C2, C2 is going to read this address, go to that particular memory location and read values for us. Okay, because it is storing the reference, or because it is storing the address, whenever we use the assignment operator, the address will get copied over. Okay, so we now have a situation like this: C1 pointing to address 1 and C2 also pointing to address 1. This particular memory location is no longer referenced by any object, and it will get garbage collected by Java at some point of time. Okay, so now if we print C2.population, what should we get? C2, come here, read the address, says go to address 1. So it will go over here and print 10,000 for us. Okay, I hope this concept is very clear, that primitive data types store the value, whereas reference data types store the reference, or they store the address where the value is present. Having seen the primitive data type being stored by value and the reference data type being stored by reference, now let us have a look what happens to parameters which are passed to methods, especially when we pass a primitive data type to a method versus when we pass a reference data type to a method. Do note this part, you only need to know the theory. It does not come in the programming section for the ICSE grade 10 syllabus. Okay, so first thing, pass by value for primitive data type. Suppose we have a main method which has a local variable because age is defined inside a method, local variable age of type int. So in this case, age is a variable which will store, it is of type int, which is a primitive data type. So age will directly store the value, which is 25 in this case. If we print the age at this point of time, it will print, what will it say? It will read the contents of the age variable and print 25 on screen. Now, let us call a method called update age and pass this age. Age here is the actual parameter, and pass this age to the update age method, where A is the formal parameter. The parameter in the method prototype is the formal parameter. Okay. So now what will happen? The value of age will get passed to A. Okay. So for A, a separate memory location is created, and the value present in age, which is 25, will be passed or copied over to variable A. Okay. Now, if we print A at this point of time, it will go and read the contents of the variable A and print 25 on the screen. If we change the value of A, what we are doing is we are saying A is equal to A plus 5, which means 25 plus 5 and make it 30. The contents of variable A change. And if I print the value of A again in the method, it will print 30. Okay, clear so far? Now the method completes and the control goes back to the main method. Now at this point, if we print the age variable, do note, as the diagram clearly indicates, the age variable has not changed. Changes were made to the copy of age, which was variable A in the method. Okay, so the age variable remains at 25. Fine. So this is how primitive data types are passed to methods. A copy of the variable is made. Changes made in this method that we change it from 25 to 30 remain in this method only. Those changes are not reflected to the calling method. Okay, so this is how primitive data types are passed. Next, let us now have a look at how reference data types are passed to methods. Okay, so we're calling methods where we're saying pass by reference. So we have a class student with a instance variable age, and in the main method, we are making an object of the student class. Okay, so what does it have? Object, because it is a not primitive data type, it is a reference data type. The object variable will store the address where the instance variables are present, in this case, where the age variable is present. And initially, the age will have a default value of 0 whenever we create an object. So now we are assigning the value of 25 to object.age. So age will contain 25. If we print object obj.age at this point, we'll go here, obj, read the address, which is address 1, which we say refers to. Okay, so this is a pointer or referring to. It will go to that address and read the value of age and say 25. Okay. Now let us call a method obj.updateAge, and instead of passing a primitive data type like an int, we are passing the entire object obj to it. Okay, so we say public void update age. Now this method accepts a parameter. The formal parameter here is of type student and it is local obj. This is the formal parameter, remember, this is the actual parameter. Okay, so now what will happen again? Same thing, local obj will be created in memory. The value present in obj will be copied over to local obj. Now, what is the value present in obj? It is an address. Remember, it is an address. So that address gets copied to local obj. So hence, now local obj will also refer to that same memory location. So that is why we are saying passing the reference. They are copying the address from this variable obj to the formal parameter local obj. Okay. Now, in this method, if we print local obj.age, fine, local obj, it will go to local obj, it will read an address and it will go to that same address location or memory location and print 25. If we change this value, saying local obj.age is equal to local obj.age plus 5, again the same thing, you're going to the same memory location and changing the value. So the value will become 30. If we print it in the method, it will print 30. Once the method completes, control comes back to the main method. And now if we print the age value using the OBJ reference. Okay, if we use this object reference at this point, again, object is reading the value address 1 from here, which pointing to age 30 and it will print 30. Okay, so that is why we say reference data types or non-primitive data types are passed by reference. Okay, and whatever change we made in this method, we change it from 25 to 30 in the method, that gets reflected in the calling method as well. The calling method can also see that change of 30. Okay, so this part comes only in theory, and what we need to know is this differentiate between pass by value. So in pass by value, the value of the parameter is copied to the formal parameter. Okay, and in pass by reference, what are we copying? We were copying that address. The address is also known as a reference. So this is very easy to remember. In pass by reference, the reference of the actual parameter is copied to the formal parameter. Now here what happens if you when we made changes to the age parameter, okay? So any changes done to those parameters in the method are not visible to the outside method, okay? But in this case, pass by reference, because they are both referring to the same memory location, any change done to the formal parameter are visible on the actual parameter. Here you can write primitive data types are passed by values. We know our 8 primitive data types: basal, byte, short, int, long. Again, start with a B, boolean, char, float, and double. Okay, and reference data types are passed by reference: CIA, classes, interfaces, arrays. Okay, all these are passed by reference. So that's it for now.